With over 139 million paying subscribers, Netflix has managed to become the #1 online streaming platform in the world. The acclaimed American media services provider has worked alongside big names in Hollywood, such as Damien Chazelle, Steven Soderbergh, and Guillermo del Toro. In addition, the company has also teamed up with some of Hollywood's best to produce award-winning original programs, such as Orange is the New Black, Sense8, Santa Clarita Diet, House of Cards, and, of course, Stranger Things. Amongst these award-winning TV shows is my personal favorite, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt first premiered on Netflix on March 6, 2015. Created by Tina Fey and Robert Carlock, the series follows a 29-year-old woman named Kimmy Schmidt as she adjusts to life after being rescued from a doomsday cult held for 15 years in the fictional town of Durnsville, Indiana.
4 women rescued from an underground apocalypse cult allegedly run by
self-proclaimed Messiah, Reverend Richard Wayne Gary Wayne, best known to Yelp users in this area
as Durnsville's worst wedding DJ. I am now joined by a neighbor who watched all the drama unfold, Walter Bankston. Mr. Bankston?
Oh, yeah. What had happened was I was outside cutting up bike tires with my grandson when out of nowhere, 40...
Kimmy decides to restart her life by moving to New York City, where she befriends her landlady, finds a roommate, and lands a job. Over the course of 4 seasons, we watch Kimmy emerge from a world of terrible trauma and assimilate in a society where there's opportunity around every corner. There are so many reasons to love Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. For starters, the show's bright and bubbly color palette reflects Kimmy's youthful, light, upbeat perspective of the world. The characters in the show are caricatures of archetypes found throughout television and film, many of them taking on purposefully ridiculous stereotypes. But ultimately, what I love about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is that under this sense of humor is a layer of realness that highlights real-world social issues under the guise of over-the-top sarcasm and exaggeratedly cheesy jokes. In Ibrahim and El Tantawi's article, Egypt's Jon Stewart, Humorous Political Satire and Serious Cultural Jamming, the authors discuss political satire in Egypt as a form of revolt. They qualitatively analyze the Egyptian show Al-Bernameg to explore instances in which the series deconstructs political ideologies disseminated by Egyptian media. Poking fun at oppressive regimes has been a fundamental part of Egyptian life since the pharaohs. While Egyptians may lack actual power to change their rulers, they do have substantial freedom to mock. Satire press was a common form of expression in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in Egypt. The reliance of these early satirical newspapers on colloquial Egyptian rather than formal Arabic Fusha allowed for more exchange between written and oral disseminations. This does not fall short of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. The series' consistent jokes surrounding race, gender, sexuality, and other social constructs do exactly what the authors state Al-Bernameg do: use satire to unveil issues within its society. So my question is, how does Netflix Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt use satire to unveil race and gender issues in modern society? Well, in order to answer this question, we need to dissect the characters. First, let's analyze Kimmy Schmidt, played by Ellie Kemper. I don't believe her character has any heavy political implications regarding race or gender, but I do think her background is important to mention. So, alongside 3 other women, Kimmy was kidnapped by Reverend Richard Wayne Gary Wayne, played by John Hamm. The Reverend convinced the 4 women that a nuclear apocalypse had come and that they were the sole survivors of humanity. Eventually, the women are rescued and make the decision to go their separate ways. Kimmy decides she wants to start over entirely and live her new adult life in New York City. The only problem is that she knows nothing about adulting and the modern world, as the only things she knows are American Girl dolls, the Babysitter's Club books, the television show Friends, and other 90s pop culture texts. She is eternally optimistic, upbeat, extremely childlike, but still very resourceful, tough, and unbreakable. Roaming around New York, Kimmy bumps into landlady Lillian Koshtupper, played by Carol Kane. I also don't believe Lillian's character has any political implications regarding gender and race, but she is definitely one of my favorite characters in the show. Lillian is a proud New Yorker with a long criminal history. She's a bit of an oddball. She claims there's a gigantic furry monster living in the neighborhood that only she can see, and that a roach crawled out of a dictionary once and bit her, which she believes increased her knowledge. She hates progress and technology, although she is passionate about fighting gentrification in her neighborhood. In the first episode, Lillian runs into Kimmy, sees that she is struggling, and provides her with a place to stay. However, in order to live at the apartment, Kimmy has to find a job. So, Kimmy attempts to land a job at a candy store. When she arrives, she sees a boy stealing candy. She takes him home to his mother, Jacqueline Voorhees, played by Jane Krakowski, who ends up hiring Kimmy as a nanny for her son. Jacqueline's character most definitely has political implications regarding both race and gender. Jacqueline grew up hating her Native American heritage and wishing she were white. She left her family behind, bought blue contact lenses, dyed her hair blonde, and changed her name to Jacqueline in order to whitewash herself and fit in with the stereotypical rich, snobby socialites. Jacqueline is the archetypal bitchy boss. In Jane Marcellus' book, Business Girls and Two-Job Wives, Emerging Media Stereotypes of Employed Women, Marcellus examines how popular magazines portrayed wage-earning women during the interwar years 1918 to 1941. In Janet Rice McCoy's review of the book, she mentions that Marcellus argues media images of women, both yesterday and today, undermined their credibility by sexualizing and infantilizing them in the workplace. This could be applied to Jacqueline's character in the show, as she is oftentimes portrayed as having mood swings, very childlike mood swings, and treating Kimmy very poorly. However, as the series progresses, Jacqueline slowly learns to embrace her heritage, as well as gain an appreciation for Kimmy as someone to console in about all of her problems. As Jacqueline's nanny, Kimmy makes enough income to be able to pay for the apartment that Lillian had offered her. Kimmy eventually moves in and meets her roommate, Titus Andromedon, played by Titus Burgess. Titus is a stereotypical, flamboyant, gay, aspiring Broadway performer who quickly becomes Kimmy's best friend. Born in Mississippi and raised by 5 aunts, Titus had an extremely difficult time in high school, as he was a popular kid on the football team as well as prom king. He remained in the closet until his wedding day, when he fled the reception to move to New York and begin a new life under the name Titus Andromedon. In an article titled Straight Talk, a thematic analysis of black gay males in film and television from the ritual perspective, the author discusses media images of homosexuality in the black community. There is a continuum of identities relating to black gay males within all of the films and television programs covered that both perpetuate and debunk gay stereotypes. Many of the films and television programs provide at minimum one character that is portrayed as flamboyant, effeminate, or soft through mannerisms, attire, and language, including references to males using female terms and identities. It is clear that Faye and Carlock purposefully made Titus a flamboyant, gay, black man who wears colorful clothing and has a passion for Broadway theater. Not only is this satire on an all-too-common gay male stereotype, but intersectionality, the theory that the overlap of various identities contribute to the specific type of systemic oppression experienced by an individual, also plays a role when you analyze it from a racial perspective as well. Black men are never allowed to be effeminate, which is why I love Titus' character. He is all that the anti-gay black male narrative fights against. While many of the characters are satirical in themselves, there are many episodes that also cover topics that surround gender and race. In Season 3, Episode 10, titled Kimmy Pulls Off a Heist, Jacqueline sets out to get the Washington Redskins to change its name as a way to make it right to her family for betraying her Native American culture. This episode pokes fun at football fans who chose to burn NFL merchandise because of Colin Kaepernick's decision to take a knee during the national anthem in 2016. In Season 2, Episode 3, the topic of cultural appropriation is mentioned. In this episode, Titus decides to create a one-man play about what he believes to be his past life as a geisha. When the Asian community hears about this, they attend his play in protest, wearing Titus equals Hitler shirts, as they believe Titus is going to exploit and appropriate their culture. However, as they tune into Titus' performance, they were pleasantly struck by his beautiful voice and realized that he was not appropriating Asian culture, but rather appreciating it. These are only a few examples of how Netflix's Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt unveils race and gender issues through satire. The show has received much heat for its content, as it undoubtedly walks the line with its sarcastic, outlandish jokes about race, class, sexuality, and gender. However, critics need to realize that the show is satire and should only be viewed as satire. In the article, At Odds, Laughing and Thinking, the Appreciation, Processing, and Persuasiveness of Political Satire, the authors note that perceiving political messages as funny sets in motion two processes that, respectively, evoke and inhibit counter-arguing. On the one hand, the information of funny messages is frequently discounted, whereas on the other hand, humorous messages enhance engagement with the narrative, so-called absorption. In other words, what Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt has done is successfully portray the toxic climate of our current political landscape in a completely different lens, in a satirical lens. We may find the jokes funny and the exaggerated characters to be so stereotypical and ridiculous that you can't help but laugh, but by doing this, we are mocking these negative ideologies and subconsciously absorbing positive ideas about gender and race. As stated in Alan Moore's article, titled Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Society Through Satire, Moore states that we take part in the laughter, but also get to share Kimmy's point of view. We see things that we assume as normal, more silly. Kimmy challenges us to reevaluate things we consider commonplace and laugh at some of our own social norms.